Hi, and welcome to another narration presented by yours truly, Cryptid's Roost. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the arse of the subscription button as well. And remember to chokehold that notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. I would like to reach out and say a huge thank you to those of you who have supported Cryptid's Roost financially. We pray the good Lord replenishes you abundantly, and to those of you who will, later on. We pray the good Lord bless you as you do so. And also, a huge thank you to everyone for always supporting the channel with your likes, comments and shares as well. It is all very much appreciated. God bless you all. So grab your coffee, sit back and enjoy the show. Don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not. The Curse of the Saco River. This awesome story is written by crypticwander, a wonderful author over on Reddit. If you'd like to read more of their works, the Reddit link to their profile will be below in the description. A note from the author. This story is one I've wanted to write for a while now, but the words have always escaped me. For one, it's true. I know every story is true, haha. Very scary. This one, however, is as true as it gets. And as everyone knows, writing a series of incredible events while maintaining credibility is damn near impossible. I do invite and even encourage you to look it up on Google after it's finished. The second reason I found it difficult is it's two stories in one. There is a lot of history involved, and though the details differ depending on who tells it to you, my hometown of Bideford was first inhabited by Europeans in 1616, making it one of the first places to be visited in America, but the general consensus is the load-bearing beam I will include. Thank you for letting me ramble. Now for your story. I was born and raised in the city of Bideford, Maine. The city itself is full of somewhat garbage people, but I wouldn't have wanted to grow up anywhere else. I had many wonderful memories, as the beach was an hour walk away, the backyard was sprawling, and the woods that led down to the river was right next to my house. It runs about 130 miles from New Hampshire and splits the towns of Bideford and Saco, emptying out into the ocean beyond. Most mothers, my own included, did everything in their power to make sure their children didn't go to the water until 3 people died at the beginning of the year. This may sound morbid, and indeed it is, but for good reason. All the children in the cul-de-sac knew bits of information, usually clashing, but I first heard the full story told by an old man named Rodney. Rodney was an old native man who lived down the other side of my backyard. His grandson Josh and I would often play games with each other and became pretty good friends. Rodney was a good-spirited man, always telling us fun stories about the people from his lineage, and usually scary ones when we would put the tent up out back and camp out for the night. It was one such night I heard the curse of the Saco River. Back in the year 1675, Winter Harbour, now known as Bideford, was well established by the Europeans. The local Secokis natives generally welcomed them, and boats would come and go along the Saco River. One such boat carried 3 white men who were said to be drunk as a skunk, and meaner than one too. A woman who had given birth to the chief's son was upon one of the islands, carrying the child in tow. They decided to have a little fun and test out a story they once heard. It was said that the Native Americans could doggy paddle from birth, and they wanted to find out, most likely making a few bets on it. Despite the woman's screams, they ripped the baby from her arms and threw him into the river. Unsurprisingly, the child had drowned, Some say she went in after him only to drown herself, others not. What eventually did happen is Chief Squandro, not to be confused with Squanto, found out and placed a curse on the river. Until the day white men clear the banks, the spirits of the river would take 3 lives a year. Some say the 3 were killed right there, but regardless, there were no delegations made. In fact, it was said to ignite violence between the tribe and the Europeans, kicking off the war of King Philip. There was little more to it than that, I'm sure, but it's been about 26 years now, so my memory is a tidbit fuzzy. The one thing I can never forget, in fact is probably what caused my terrible lifelong nightmares, is the night he took us out fishing. Conveniently enough, Rodney took us by canoe out to Skelton Dam. It's a popular place for fishing and swimming. In late summer the sun is warm while being shaded by the large forest around it, and as the sun goes down the sounds of wildlife makes it an unparalleled place to relax. He had paddled us downstream for about an hour when finally the night came on. We didn't catch a whole lot, and honestly at 7 years old I hardly knew what I was doing, but I had fun with Josh, and Rodney was telling more of his stories of the past. I don't know what time it was, possibly 10 or 11, but fog began rolling across the water. Rodney made a crack about the spirits making their way from the deep, when all noise from the banks stopped. There were no insects, birds or frogs to be heard, just the quiet sloshing of water on wood. I don't think we even noticed at first, not until I could see the dead serious look on old Rodney's face. He didn't say it, but he was scared. He said something to the effect of, "We better pack it in." So we reeled in our fishing poles and he started the long trip back up the river. Being children, Josh and I didn't really panic. Rodney was experienced in the woods, and though he stayed silent, he didn't much let on that something was wrong. He just kept his eyes forward and worked the oars. This went on for a while. The sounds of nature were still silent, and it seemed as though every small sound from one side of the river to the other. The fog was still present and was growing thicker by the minute. I don't know how Rodney didn't get lost, but I assume it wasn't his first time in conditions such as this. The closer we got, the more we let go of our fear. That is, until the crying began. I couldn't tell from where, but like a gunshot out of the silence, this shrill, high-pitched sobbing rang out from across the land. It would be so loud, like it was right next to you, then seemed to move away, only to return just as quickly. To make it worse, the sobbing would erupt into insane bursts of laughter. Even thinking about it now makes me shiver. Not a male or female, it was just something I couldn't possibly find words to match with. As it continued, we started to hear the sounds of something jumping through the forest, easily keeping pace with the boat. I tried to block out most of it, but that's not something that ever goes away. I believe that was about the time Josh and I began to cry ourselves. Rodney tried to comfort us, telling us to keep our heads down and to cover our ears, but most of his efforts were spent rowing in a panic-driven manner. The tone of his voice was quick and stern, nothing like the tight look on his face, and I believe he was praying. The sob and crying stopped after a bit to our relief. However, it was short-lived. A woman's voice shot out from somewhere, distant but also close in a blood-freezing tone. It screamed, "Help me!" I looked out through the fog. It wasn't a woman I saw, however. On the banks to the right, I could make out a thin figure. Not too many details were visible, aside from the long horns that sprouted up from his head, like that of a deer. The image quickly melted back into the fog and disappeared. Once again, "Help me, please," came from the bank. The opposite one, however, the one closest to us. As this happened, the sound of drums came and quickly crescended their way all around us, like that of a dozen or more people playing drums. Rodney told us once again not to look and steered the canoe away towards the centre of the river. Like the idiot kid I was, I looked as large green orbs of light began to appear, along with multiple little men. I say men, but they were all much too short, and the shape wasn't quite right. It was almost like a group of monkeys were all lined up along the shore, just staring at us, as that ghostly cry for help continued to follow, switching sides from time to time. I'm fairly certain I had wet my pants by then. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life, including my current age. Unfortunately, our boat trip through hell wasn't quite over yet. The fog was a constant and would swallow everything almost as quickly as it appeared. As terrifying as the things on the bank were, at least they couldn't get to us, or so I thought. We must have been pretty close to the boat launch by that point, but before we could get there, the sounds of splashing erupted on all sides of us. The occasional slosh of water told us there was something around our boat, and it wasn't long till the knocking began. It was soft at first, more like something was rubbing the sides of the canoe. Then it turned into scratching, and they quickly got louder, as if people were pounding their fists against the sides. It was getting so bad I thought we were going to tip, and poor old Rodney was rowing like a madman, the panic on his face as clear as day. He was no longer trying to be silent, and I could even see something trying to grab and pull at the oars. These sort of short black arms that grabbed at whatever they could. Finally, we made it to the boat launch, Rodney practically throwing us on land. He didn't bother with our bags or fishing stuff either. I was somewhat upset the next day, but I can't blame him one bit. We ran to his truck, still hearing drums beat all around us, now coupled with the sounds of loud growls. I can't tell you what for sure, but some sort of animals were pacing around the fog on all fours. They kept their distance, thank God, but before we were fully on the road, we were in for one more surprise. The branches and leaves of the trees off to the left of the truck began shuffling. The forest here is thick, so it's hard to see what it was, but some sort of large bird burst through the canopy and shot across the lake. I've never seen anything so monstrously large in my life. Rodney later told me he believed it was a thunderbird. I'm not sure, but the wingspan was anywhere from 20 to 30 feet long. Since that night I stayed away from the river. In fact, I moved halfway across the country. I can't really tell you a whole lot else from that night. I never got many answers myself. I can tell you, however, that I believe in the curse of the Saco River wholeheartedly, as well as its spirits. Do not go into that river unless, of course, 3 people have already been found dead. Don't forget, if you enjoyed that story, be sure to pop over to the author's Reddit profile and drop them a line, or even give them a glowing review. I'm sure they really would appreciate it. The link to their Reddit profile will be below in the description. Please be so kind as to throat punch the like button and smack the ass of the subscription button as well. And remember to tap the notification bell and then select all. That way you'll receive all notifications each time I upload a new video. Oh, and don't forget to share the video far and wide. This will all help with YouTube's algorithm and will help to promote this channel more. And don't forget to check out the merch store. The link will be in the description and also in the video thumbnail. And if you would like an honourable mention, send in a snapshot of yourself with your purchase and I'll feature it in one of the videos. I now have my very own subreddit community where you can submit any stories you've written. You can submit your stories or encounters either there or send them to cryptidsroost@gmail.com. If you wish to remain anonymous, that's fine with me. All the links are below. I also have a Facebook group, Twitter, Reddit, and you'll also find me on Discord. If you would like to support this channel and help make it grow, my PayPal is paypal.me/cryptidsroost. Again, that will also be below. And don't forget, where fear is, happiness is not.